What's up, guys? Welcome back. I was able to sell the blue S197 last night, and there's been a 2022, I think, Mach 1 located about 30 minutes from me for sale for a few weeks now. It's a totaled car, but it's pretty complete. Everything's there. Brembo calipers, not Sparco, what am I talking about? Recaro seats. Of course, it's got the GT350 trans, GT350 manifold. I think it's only got like 7,000 or 8,000 miles on it. So I've got the trailer hooked up, and we're gonna go check it out. And assuming everything's pretty decent with it, the guys already let me know it does crank, run, and then die, but that's kind of common with a crash one. That's kind of what my car did after I crashed it. But more or less, we're loaded up, and we're gonna go check this thing out. So stay tuned. All right, here it is. Dash is intact, so luckily the bag didn't blow. It's also got a digital dash. Recaros, so the idea is to be able to use most of this. It does have Brembos as well because it is a Mach 1, so yeah, we're gonna get ready to fire this thing up, see what happens. Okay, so originally I didn't know how I was going to get this car off my trailer, because in the past I've lifted them off by the roof, but I ended up having a long chain and a strap, so I just kind of threw it under the car and it came right up. It's not like any of the body panels were salvageable anyways. If you notice, the transmission mounts broke, which luckily I have another one over there. I'm pretty sure the front subframe is fine. I'm just kind of looking. Of course, when I get it out, I may see, but for the most part, it kind of just seems like it got like the lower control arms. So, anyways, I'm about to drop it down on some jack stands and then get it resituated on the lift, get it in the air, and I think I may mess with the fuel pump and see if I can get it running, because that was the one thing. It did crank and run off ether, and it ran really, just fine, really well. So I kind of want to see if I can just get the fuel pump to kick on and get it to start that way before I rip it apart. So stay tuned. All right, so I've been out here kind of for about an hour, and more or less, so the guy's son, I guess, had been trying to get it to run and couldn't do it. He spliced into like every wire in the fuel pump hat, but all I did was plug up a spare fuel pump I had, and it ran. I did have fuel pump codes for, primary circuit, etc., but again, like I said, he spliced into all this. I actually hadn't tried it, but anyway, long story short, I'll show you real quick. This pump here is what came out of it. When I pulled it out of the tank, this is just exactly how it looked. So obviously it flipping or whatever just broke that thing all up. So I'm assuming now that I put another S550 pump in here, and assuming it kicks on again, which it did earlier, the car should start. I'm just not gonna be able to let it run long because the oil cooler does have like a little bit of a leak. So it's just gonna sit there and be pumping. But this will be everything I need to know to just go ahead and get this thing ripped apart. All right. Hey, there it is. Look at that. Man. There for a second, a little bit worried, because generally they don't turn over that long. Again, this will be probably the first Gen 3 I've messed with, but oh yeah, look at that, man. That's a little bit more than a little leak, but yeah, so that oil cooler's done for, which kind of sucks. I don't know if I'll trust TIG welding it back, but it's like cracked right in there, and I'm pretty sure that happened pulling the car up on the trailer. Honest with you, I didn't expect it to shoot that much out, but I'm not going to run it anymore. So yeah, pretty happy that I did at least get it to crank and run, so I know everything's good. And really the only electronic I don't see working is the radio. So I don't know what's up with that. But the blower, all that works, the digital dash, etc. So the plan is to try to use as much of this as I can in the 70, and I'll update you guys with more. Alright, so I ended up getting the engine and trans out today. Not too bad. This is about the best way to pull them. Of course, all the suspension was damaged, so I pulled it off. Generally, I'll kind of leave it hanging. But yeah, so everything's complete, undamaged. It ran real well. One of the engine mounts was broke here, but as far as where it attaches to the block and everything, it's fine. So now I'm gonna get it off the subframe, move it, and then work on getting the rear apart. I have a Gen 2 short block that I built, and I have a new set of cams. I also have a good Gen 2 MT82. So basically I have almost everything to do a Gen 2 drivetrain in this car. So I've had it listed, and I've had some hits on it, but more or less what I'm doing is just I'm listing that as well, and kind of whichever sells first, I'll put the other one in the 70. So that just seems to be the best route to go. Because that's about a $15,000 drivetrain. So I mean, I got a steal on the car. So if I sold that for what, 14, that'd make a few months of bill money, and as well as giving the money I spent on the car back to just kind of finish up that drivetrain. Nonetheless, there's still a lot of parts on this car I didn't have that I'm going to use that were free. I have a good radiator, condenser. The AC was holding. None of that was damaged. So that'll get used. I also needed a front subframe, you know, assuming I went with S550. So this subframe will get used. The Brembos, the Recaros, the dash, and the cluster. So whether I use this drivetrain or not, I kind of hope I can. I'd really like to sell that stuff. I just got some shipping quotes today for some guys. So assuming those go, this is 100% going in that car. I just don't want to, this did eat up a lot of my budget. So what I don't want to do is put this in the car, get everything, you know, kind of rolling, and then run out of money to finish some little stupid stuff. So at the end of the day, I think getting the car mostly complete would be more beneficial than, you know, having a running driving Mach 1 drivetrain in it, and it, you know, the rear fabrication work's not done or something like that. So, but yeah, I'll kind of update you guys as we go. Still not 100% decided, but we'll get there. So I just got the rear subframe out, and for the most part, it's mostly standard S550 stuff. So it appears I have a broken lower control arm and knuckle on this side. Everything else is relatively undamaged. The mounting point subframe's fine. Let's see. It's pretty cool how the factory like diff cooler set up here, and then it had its own external pup. So I believe I'm gonna be keeping that for my car possibly. Let's see, on this side, everything was relatively undamaged on this side, so ride height sensors are there, but yeah, nonetheless pretty cool. Just trying to get everything kind of snatched out of this that's usable, that way I can get this thing out of the way, and kind of make a determination from there. So yeah, I just figured I'd give you guys a little show of kind of how S550 comes apart. Not much to them. There's a couple little things that if you don't know they're there, they can be annoying, but I don't even know how many of these I've done now. But I know in the past, like I forgot the clutch line, which that's standard. You know, and there's a ground behind the engine. Just little things like that kind of helps as far as how quick you can get something out, just knowing what's what. So thanks for watching, and I'll keep updating you guys. So unfortunately, I kind of worked on the interior, but the Sync 3 module was damaged. I'm assuming by water because they didn't have it covered. So, and it did rain a little bit over those few months, or the month that I saw it for sale. So everything else works, but kind of like where the radio and stuff was sitting, it did allow for some water to run down into the control module, the APIM, as well as the screen. So at least the digital dash and all that's good, but I will have to replace that. I've already got some of the trim off. You got to take all this trim off as well as the center console out. And I'm getting ready to finish up pulling the trim and the vent over there, the cluster and the steering column. And then I'm going to pull this dash out. Okay, so I did video a decent amount of taking this car apart, but for the most part, the entire body harness is there. I've got all the usable parts out of it. I burned what I didn't need that I could, and then kind of any other little scrap stuff is in there. So I've got the seats, the door sills. This console was a little bit damaged, but I have a non-damaged one somewhere right back there, and I'll just swap this lid onto it because it does have the white stitching, which from what I'm noticing is kind of factory of the Mach 1 anyway. So I got the AC lines, heater hoses. I do believe I'm going to use that heater box. So it's pretty much time to go ahead and start marrying most of that into here. Like I said, the firewall's mostly done. That airbox is not going to line up with this firewall, so I'll have to make some adjustments to that. And I think I'm going to leave these dash mounts in the car. And the mounts that I'd already modified them on the S197 dash, but more or less use those mounts on the S550 dash, the bar anyways, because as long as the bar bolts in, you know, the cover and stuff will be fine. So now mainly, the main thing I have left is kind of getting the rear end squared away, which is just how I got this panel sit on here now. You know, I got this little bit of a gap, so I'm going to have to trim some stuff in here. And then kind of fill in the fender wells, and then of course put in wheel tubs. So, but to like the S197 factory, you know, body there, it's a pretty well straight shot. So should just be extending this kind of down with some sheet metal and tying it into the quarter. Of course, I'll have to kind of cut this out and build that back. So, but for the most part, I think I have most of the parts I need. This body harness is going to come out because that's the S197 body harness. But yeah. I know it's been a while, but this should be the only project I'm working on from here on out, hopefully. So, kind of get back going on this, kind of get my train of thought back anyways, but yeah, it should come out pretty decent. Okay, so here's where I'm at with this. So, before, I had pretty much made the outer firewall flat and sealed it off that way, and I'd left a lot of the innard. But with the 18 airbox, the AC lines come through here, so I went ahead and cut this piece out. The holes actually lined up perfect in here, but it's a couple inches too far back, so I'm not too concerned with that right now. The actual intake itself lines up here really well. So what I'm going to do now is I was going to get a template, but I figured I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out of this firewall. And originally, like I said, I was just going to make a template because obviously this car is wrecked pretty bad and it did crumple that. But for what I'm needing, I'm just going to cut it out and then flatten this and then use that as my template to cut the hole, get it fit up. And I mean, if I can use that piece of metal to cover and weld in and it worked fine, worst case scenario, I could use this as a template to cut a new piece out of sheet metal. So I thought my S550 was up at the house, but I've recently moved it. So just, you know, for sake of time, I think I'm just going to go this route. Okay, so that worked just fine as a template. And I'd already had it marked about where the top of the airbox was. And I kind of just used that to trace it. Now I'm sure it'll need a little bit of cleaning up. I may even be able to get it close enough to where I don't have to do an overlay, but worst case, if I got to open this up a tiny bit more than it needs for it to sit right, I can always you know, make another another piece of steel, kind of like use this as a template and weld it on from the front. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and kind of hole saw this out and then use my body saw and cut that shape. Okay, so this is the 2018 airbox sitting in here. I've got this bolt on the lower half there installed and one in the back. This lines up pretty well. I mean, that's literally right where the S197 one does. So the Firewall is obviously a little bit further, you know, a little bit different. So where it's at now, I ended up having to drill 2 more holes like this a little further forward for it to sit, which it's sitting flush. Now that doesn't match perfectly with my exterior firewall, so I will have to make like an insert for that. Now this is pretty close, so you can see here, this is the S550 center dash mount, whereas that's the S197 one, so it's a bit different. But it looks like I'm going to be able to locate, I mean, that's pretty close. You know, I mean, even if that were come up some, or if I were to just bend that, which is probably what I'll do. But nonetheless, I may be able to use that hole, but what I need to do now is to go ahead and pull the dash cover off the S550 dash there. And I'll probably leave the vents installed so I can kind of, you know, cut what needs to be cut and get it fit up against that. But as you can see here, that hole I cut was pretty close. I know I said I was going to body saw it, but I forgot I'd bought a new lead for my plasma cutter, so I just plasmaed it out. But again, it's not sitting perfectly flush, so I'll probably come in here and cut a little bit more. And I'm thinking maybe doing like some kind of insert that I can slide in, but it'll go back and meet the box is probably going to be the best bet. But the reason I chose to do this is A, it'll just plug into the body harness, and B, I have the AC system on that car was good, so I'm just going to, you know, come in here with a 2018 line. If I'm not mistaken, it'll bolt right to that bolt, and then of course it'll bolt right to the compressor on this swap, assuming I use this swap. But anyway, long story short, all the lines, the wiring, etc. To me, it's a lot easier to make that stuff plug and play and just, you know, fill in a couple holes here or there. It wasn't that hard to locate the bolt hole. There's one there. And then I literally just cut the stud out of that chassis, and it's just bolted in for now, but I am going to come back and TIG weld that in. And I'm even considering maybe doing like some kind of 3D printed insert there. I don't really know, but that's kind of going to be the biggest thing I need to fix, is doing the, sealing that little area off there. So, and of course I'm going to come back, cut that out, and, you know, fill that in. So yeah, this may be the end of this video, I don't know. I do know I got a decent amount of footage, you know, getting the donor car there and stuff. So, but yeah, tomorrow I'm going to come out here and I'll get started on that dash and we'll go ahead and start getting it fitted. So if if I end up posting this video, thanks for watching. We are officially back on the 70 build. So let's get on it.